Welcome to the Simplified Dentistry podcast. Join us as we discuss clinical, operational, and financial aspects of your practice, help you enjoy life, and dare to simplify dentistry.
Hello, and welcome back to the Simplified Dentistry podcast. I am Dr. Mustafa Shakan, and along with my co-hosts, Dr. Richard Offit and Dr. Mortaza Shakan, we'd like to introduce today's guest, Dr. Mike Skramstad. Dr. Skramstad is a 2000 graduate of the University of Minnesota School of Dentistry, is a certified advanced digital dentistry trainer, and has lectured internationally on technology, implantology, and digital dentistry. He has tested and evaluated many products prior to their market launch and has published numerous articles on materials and CAD/CAM technology. Mike was the leader in the development and instruction of CDocs, the premier Cerec educational program. Dr. Skramstad is a resident faculty member at Spear Education and maintains a successful restorative practice in Orono, Minnesota, focusing on aesthetic, implant, and CAD/CAM dentistry. Dr. Skramstad, thank you for being with us today. Mike, your career has been fantastic. One thing we wanted to talk about a little bit is your journey. Can you take us through your journey a little bit?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I didn't grow up wanting to be a dentist for sure. It was just something that came up last minute. I went to Purdue in Indiana for college, and I liked the sciences, so I went into biology. And then when it came down to make a decision, really, I didn't. It was either medical school, go to grad school, or go to dental school. And I had a good buddy that wanted to go to dental school, and I said, "That sounds kind of good. I think I'll do that." And I applied to dental school, and that's how I ended up there. So I remember it's interesting because when you go to dental school, most people have had that kind of sight in mind for a long time, or that plan in mind for a long time, and I didn't even know what a crown was. I had no idea, no clue. And so I went in there literally knowing nothing when I went into dental school, which is probably an unusual path, especially these days where, just to get into dental school, you need so much, background probably and interning. And so I went through dental school, did pretty well. And then when I went into private practice, it was back in the day where I ended up buying a practice right out of dental school, which is probably a little bit unusual. She worked for me for I worked for her for 6 months. She worked for me for 6 months, and then it was mine. And so very quickly after that, I kind of partnered up about a couple of years later with another dentist, and we built our first kind of joint office. And when we did that, that is, I think I was always a young looking guy. And so I was looking for a way to distinguish myself. So right off the bat, we ended up buying our first Cerec machine. I think it was 2002. I just fell in love with it immediately. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was just as expensive back then as it is now. So it was a big purchase for us, but we bought it immediately. And, ever since then, that's kind of been the focus of my whole entire professional life, has been like the digital dentistry angle. People always ask how I got into education. I think it's different now where education is so much more accessible with social media. Everybody kind of can do what they want. They can make videos, they can put it on YouTube. And back then, the community was just so small that there was really just a few of us kind of knocking around dental town, kind of getting beat up by people that thought the dentistry we were doing was horrible. So the community back then in the early 2000s got really, really tight really quick. And so most of my closest friends to this day are from that community, Sam included. And, we just started doing stuff and making training videos. And from then it just kind of got more and more and more, and to kind of led me where I'm at today. So it was almost by accident that all of us became, educators. We didn't certainly set out to do that. We just set out to kind of show people the things that we like to do and try to help them, and really, really believed in what we were doing. And we wanted more people to kind of believe in themselves that they could do it. And so that's basically how CDocs was formed, is just trying to form a community and helping people enjoy the success that we were having.
So I guess when you jumped into it in 2002, I guess, is that RedCam or is that before RedCam?
It was Cerec 3. And so it was right before, when we bought it, was right before Cerec 3D came out. So Cerec 3D the first Cerec machine that was actually in 3 dimensions, where you could use that little trackball to rotate things around. That was introduced in 2003. So we were right before that. So still in 2 dimensions, still drawing lines, and yeah, I still have that machine, I think, somewhere in storage, but it was a nightmare.
So what got you thinking about, obviously I graduated in 2002, and our whole world was analog. Everything we were taught was analog. I mean, everybody tells you the best dentistry is this way, PVS impression, maybe even polyether. Um, and looking at, you'd always hear about these guys that were doing CAD CAM dentistry, and like, man, sounds cool, but I mean, obviously it doesn't work, I mean, but
Yeah.
you know, how did what got you looking at it? And I mean, I think for me, once I jumped into it, it was kind of the congruence of material technology had advanced. I think my first one was the Omnicam, and if
Right.
I felt like all of it. Well, what got you into it so early? Yeah.
I think it was just a way. What got me into it and got me interested mostly was just a way to separate. Like, I just felt like I wanted to do something different. I didn't know a ton about dentistry at the time. But I already knew that I wanted to kind of separate myself from others. I didn't want to do the same thing. So that's kind of what got me into it, I would say initially, or what was driving me towards that type of dentistry. Now, to your point, I look back at those times in the early 2000s, and I think that I can probably agree that the dentistry probably wasn't as good as it was analog. We didn't have the materials available. When I talk to people, I kind of say that I've been separating my career into 10-year chunks. And if I look at those first 10 years that I used CAD CAM, I would probably say that those were the least successful years of my career. And what I mean by that is that we were driving ourselves forward to kind of, prepare ourselves for success now, but we just didn't have the materials. So we were using, feldspathic ceramic or Vita material. We were putting it everywhere. And I think that the machine worked. We would get good results, but longevity wise, I just don't think that it was there. I think that you end up replacing a lot of the work. I ended up with more failures, probably than most. But in the end, I've always looked at that as a way to learn. You learn how to prep better, you learn how to bond better, which leads me to the next 10 years, I would classify as the Emax years, and that's kind of where you jumped in, it sounds like. And those years are successful. Really the first material that we can use that really you can put anywhere. It was strong. It's still being used today. But there's still issues. You have to really be good at prepping. You have to really be good at bonding. And now I would say these next 10 years are kind of, we're entering the zirconia kind of age, where I think that it's just becoming easier and easier and easier. It's just, the knowledge that we developed in those first, the first 20 years is kind of leading us to be, I think, really successful with the materials that we have now. It fits better. You can cement it. You don't have to worry as much about bonding. I just think that everything is setting us up to be like super, super successful in the future with CAD CAM.
Yeah, kind of when like you said, when I jumped in the Emacs era, is
Yeah.
kind of when I started. And the thing that I learned real quick, when I first started Emacs, it was lab fabricated Emacs and it was pressed Emacs, because I think they were having trouble with marginal chipping. Um, Once
Right.
I got a Cerec, you learned real quick, you have to be better. You have to be better at what you do. You cannot let a lab tech kind of make up for your deficiencies. So I do think it definitely improves your clinical skill. But I do feel like at that point in time, you'd get this mixed feedback. People would be like, "Oh man, I see these CEREC restorations and they're not very good." And I was like, "Well, that's the practitioner."
Right.
Yeah,
There were those
Yeah.
huge operator variants.
Yeah.
well, you'd see that, and there are those people that would always some of those non-Cerec docs that would always call it, Cerec or whatever,
Yeah.
because you're like you're wrecking these people's teeth with these, machine-made restorations. Like we're not. And I was like, if the clinician's good, then the restoration's good. If the clinician is not, then
I had
crap in, crap out.
yeah. I had the benefit of being a periodontist during that whole time frame, and you kind of you open up a case and you kind of see who's doing it on the right page, and so it was very interesting to see the variation and the learning curves, right? The
Yeah.
learning curve was quite sharp.
And I was kind of newer to Cerec. I'm the newer doc, I guess, and out of the four of us. And thankfully, I've gotten to learn from you and Rick and Moose. But I remember Moose and I had lots of conversations about, zirconia because I got, Prime Scan when it came out. I got the M6L that could mill the zirconia, and he, Emacs had worked great for him. And I was like, man, you really need to take this next step. And a lot of it was stuff, courses at CDocs with you and Mina and Sam showing me how that stuff works and how it gives you a better result and better for the patient and all that. And slowly but surely, my older brother decided to, see the light.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is that if so say you're a young, very few people are going to take the route that you took, where you had the exposure and I guess the circle of colleagues that helped you kind of navigate the course. A young kid comes out of dental school, guy or girl comes out of dental school today, and they're thinking much like you. They've had some exposure in school. They think that's the direction they want to go. How should they proceed? How should they go from like the new graduate to be acquiring the skills?
Yeah, it's so much different now than it was, 20 years ago. It's just there's, social media has changed everything. There's more options, specifically with digital. Like when I got into digital, there was one option. So if you wanted to start, it was Cerec or nothing. And now there's so many decisions that need to be made. What scanner do you want to go with Cerec? It's a bigger investment, but it's probably easier. Or do you want to put together your own system? There's tons of different softwares and milling units. But I would say that one thing that everything has in common is that the skill set to use them well is pretty basic, and that's learning how to prep, right? It's learning how to prep. And so whenever I teach, like I stress that so much. I spend so much time on preparation, on how to, spend a little extra time, polishing your margins, get magnification. Because if you can prep well, you're going to be successful in anything that you do. It doesn't matter if you do it analog, it doesn't matter if you do it digital. And I think that in dental school, what I'm finding here is dental schools even changed. Because when I was in dental school, we did kind of a lot of crowns. And I'm starting to hear now that some of these dental students are coming out doing like 2 crowns,
Oh, wow.
right? Yeah, they're doing like 2, 3 crowns, so very, very little exposure on indirect restorations. And then when you get into private practice, especially if you're just a GP, a crown is going to be a pretty darn, you know, common procedure that you're going to do. You're going to be doing these every single day, hopefully. And if you don't have the skill set right out of dental school to prep the right way or even understand how to prep the right way, that's the education I would seek out. So, there's courses everywhere, but they're a little bit harder to find because most of the courses are going to focus on, how do I make digital dentures, or how do I
Yeah.
how do I
Yeah.
do all these advanced procedures? How do I do implants? How do I do, but my recommendation would be you need to back up like 3 steps. You need to get the foundations and take, a preparation course. I don't know if any of you three have taken, Dr.
Winter.
Bob
If you're
Winter's,
talking about Bob's course, yeah.
Winter's course, but it's just like I don't think new dentists think that that's kind of the route that they want to take. Why would I, spend time and money to go learn how to prep? But if you take that course, you understand how super valuable it is. Because I would tell a dentist that any case that I struggle with or any case that I make a mistake on, specifically if it's anteriors, whether that's veneers or crowns, it's always my prep. 100% of the time it's my
Mhm.
prep. You think that I maybe, okay, I don't need to do a reduction guide for this case. I think I know where I'm at. And then you under prep the case and then it becomes difficult. So I think that if I was talking to a dental student, my advice to them would be to take a step back, look at what you're going to be doing every day, which would be crowns, not implants, not dentures, and focus your education on that. Because if you learn how to do that well, then all these other decisions when moving into digital are going to be much easier because it's not going to matter as much.
Yeah. So kind of focusing on that, obviously, um, with you moving from CDocs over into Spear, are y'all shifting the curriculum a little bit more to having the congruence of the preparation side or the educational side from Spear, which I've always thought was the greatest with digital dentistry and how to merge the two.
Yeah, I think that's the main focus, where the way that I would describe it is when we were with CDocs or, previously Cerec doctors, we're more teaching people like how to do things. This is how you do this is how you do that. So it's more about execution. And I would say Spear is more about understanding the why. Like, why would you do something? Why would you choose a certain route? Why would you treatment plan in a certain way? So when combining these, it's a challenge because we want to keep the same basic core foundations that Spear has in the treatment planning, but introduce digital when it helps. So I would basically say that the idea would be learning how to use digital to be able to execute some of the core principles of treatment planning. How to use scanners to diagnose, things like that. So it's less about like how we're going to mill restorations or how we're going to print restorations. It's like how can we use digital tools to make some of these aspects that we've taught for years a little bit more accessible and a little bit more efficient, so to speak.
I mean, the foundational Spear courses are amazing. I mean, even as a non-restorative dentist, I took some of those, and it was the takeaways were just incredible. And so I hear what you're saying. I think that's the right strategy because lots of times people want to start swimming in the deep end of the pool.
Yeah.
And lots of times you have to start in the shallow end of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
That's great to hear. So it's kind of an AI. That's kind of how I was going to ask you the questions on the bolt-on of not only digital but bolt-on of AI and bolt-on of all those things is that they're not foundational, that they are not add-ons. That's the wrong word, but they are
progressive.
I mean,
it's something that you can move to add to the skill set.
Well, I think you're a specialist, and so like one of the things, excuse me, that we're really concentrating on is how can I better collaborate with my specialist? How can we work as a team? And honestly, I wouldn't really be as effective as I feel like I can be if I didn't use digital. Learning how to send videos or scans or whatever it may be, cone beams. How can I send this fast and efficiently to my periodontist or my orthodontist to develop a plan and collaborate? So some of the softwares that we're using now, we can actually form in the cloud, an area where everything is shared. So I can have all my pictures, all my CBCTs, all my X-rays, all my plans, and then I can invite you to collaborate it. So we're kind of chatting back and forth, looking at the same thing. So digital in collaboration with specialists when you're doing comprehensive dentistry is really becoming a big thing. And then there's another one that is called Smile Cloud. Smile Cloud is a smile design program that was developed by a prosthodontist in Romania. His name is Florin Kofar, and then it was purchased by Straumann. And so they both have advantages and disadvantages. Obviously, Smile Cloud has smile design software that's very effective in there, but it also allows a team collaboration, where DS Core has great advantages because DS Core will allow you to like sync everything that you do automatically. So I like them both. I use them both. To your question on facially generated treatment planning, we've broken it up in kind of two different things. Number one, we changed the name. It's now called Treatment Planning with Confidence.
Oh, okay.
But the course is generally the same, but instead of, some simple things, when you learn how to use templates in that course where you're drawing templates, to do those templates, you generally need a computer and PowerPoint or Keynote.
Sure.
And so it doesn't make it super simple for people to implement it. So we've started using iPads in that course. So how can we get these pictures on the iPad and use the templates on the iPad so you can actually do it in a more collaborative way? So that would be one of the changes. And the second change is we kind of made a part two, which is what I teach, called integrating digital technology into treatment planning and case acceptance. And then that's basically the idea would be you take treatment planning with confidence first, learn all those foundations. It's more or less the same course. But I think that the biggest problem that we found is people take a course like that they get so excited to implement this in their office, and they're flying back and we're going to change our office. We're going to take pictures on everybody. We're going to do all this different stuff. And then, real life just kind of slaps you in the face a little bit. It's
Yep.
hard. It's hard to implement these things in your office. So with the integrating course that I teach, we're trying to take concepts like photography, treatment planning, scanning, and how can we actually implement this stuff in an effective way by using your team to do all these different things to help you implement this.
Can you take in your course, do you teach the being able to superimpose the CBCT scan with your clinical scans to treatment plan from the surgical phase right to where you can deliver a temporary, at least a temporary restoration on that same day? I mean, is it totally digitally driven, or is there an analog component that people use as well?
Yeah, so my course is all digital. The one that I teach, the original facially generated treatment planning will still have analog stuff in it, but we're moving more towards, because I think that when you're teaching a course like that, you have to give people both sides of the story. Because there's going to be some dentists that don't have any interest in being digital, so we have to teach them how to do it the traditional way. But then we'll say you also can do this digitally. Now, to your question about merging CBCTs, there's many with intraoral scans, there's many softwares that do this. We don't really get into the specifics of, I'm not interested in teaching like an exocad course, for instance. But there is softwares like SmileCloud, for instance, that I mentioned. There is an update coming where this all happens automatically. So I think that the future of this is using AI, which that software does, and you can have an intraoral scan, you can have pictures, you could have a CBCT, and you hit one button and it merges it all together.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
It's actually we're testing it now. It was supposed to be out in September, but it's a little bit behind. But they're showing it in lectures. We had the inventor at our faculty club summit in June, and he showed a preview. And then based on that, you could even take, if you had something like ModJaw, which is the jaw tracking software, you can even implement motion through AI where it will imagine taking, like a face scan, a picture, an upper and lower scan, and a CBCT, and just hit one button and have like a totally digital moving patient. So that is where the future is going to go. And with a software like that, then you can actually export STLs of anything that you want. I mean, you can export an STL of like the upper jaw and the CBCT if you wanted a surgical model. You can export just the tooth if you just wanted the tooth. And then where smile design would be is now we're doing three-dimensional smile design in a software like that, where if you move, it's actually super helpful to see where the bone is, because if you want to move the tissue, you're going to be able to see in 3 dimensions, okay, here's where the tissue is, and if I move it here, I'm starting to get too close to the bone, so now I need to move the bone, and you can design and see and visualize this all live in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
That's pretty crazy. I think somebody asked a question on our Facebook group the other day about how could you kind of merge all of this sort of stuff together. And I think they were talking about SciCat or something like that was supposed to have done that a long time ago. And I think they were talking about like virtual articulators and being able to digitally just put it all together. Is ModJaw kind of and the AI components allowing us to do that sort of stuff now, or in the future?
Yeah, I think with a software like CCAT was like it's a fantastic software, and I use that, but it's more of like an implant planning type of software.
Right.
Yeah.
Where you take your scan and you take your CBCT and you can plan implants and export guides. And it really works well. I like that software quite a bit because it's simple. I know there's probably more advanced ones out there, but I like that one just because of the simplicity. But that doesn't allow you to do kind of what we were talking about before, where you're actually planning more restorative treatment or different surgical treatment or crown lengthening. I mean, with some of these new AI softwares that are coming out, you could do all this in 3 dimensions and move the bone and move the tissue and then create surgical guides to help, like crown lengthening guides, for instance. All this is going to be possible to design and plan in your office and then 3D print in your office. So the capabilities are getting more and more every single day.
That's pretty crazy, especially the crown lengthening guide.
Yeah, the
I mean,
tissue
that's
reduction guides
yeah.
are great.
When I would send
Yeah.
that stuff to Dr. Offit, I'd just be like, man, I hope this thing comes back right.
I hope that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but by and
I
large, we
just
were.
send it and I said, this is where I want it to be.
Yeah.
Just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah.
the
Give me the room.
vast majority of the cases, you don't have a tissue reduction guide,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where the clinical skill of having done a gazillion of them,
Yeah.
everything, it takes reps, you got to have reps to get good at it. And so,
Yeah, a lot of times
hopefully,
the way that I would learn is I would just remove the tissue with a like a diode laser, and I would put the teeth where I need the teeth to go, and oftentimes they would be almost resting on the bone,
Mhm.
and then I would send the provisionals back to the periodontist and said, this is where the teeth go. They're bleeding a lot right now, so now you need to do the
yeah,
crown
I
lengthening.
imagine.
You need to do the crown lengthening to make this work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that something like that is super helpful because at least you know where the
Well,
final needs to
in
be.
essence, you were giving them a tissue reduction guide because
Yeah.
it was the
Right.
provisional, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The crazy thing is,
It
I would
just,
get
it might
pissed
be
off.
easier if we could do that digitally and not have to go through that stage because it is kind of a bloody mess when you do it the
Oh,
way
yeah.
that
Oh
I
yeah.
do it,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would get
If
pissed
you
off
could
a
just do
lot
that
when
ahead of time and then maybe touch it, that would be better.
I'd send something to Rick, and Rick would be like, "Hey, you need to prep this and put it in a temporary." And I was
Mhm.
like, "Man, I do digital dentistry. I don't want to put this thing in a temporary. I want to prep it once, put the crown on it.
Yeah.
You do your job."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you
Make
understand
this
why,
pretty. Yeah.
and it makes sense.
And it basically
Yeah.
was the creation of a surgical
Yeah.
tissue
Or
reduction guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with you not being obviously CDOC's focused and which means it removes you from the Cerec world exclusively, are you looking at other scanners? Do you talk about other scanners in your curriculum? You were talking about, do you build your own design scanning system, or do you go with the Cerec? Where's your
Well,
head and where's your teaching?
yeah, so of course we look at other scanners, because the I think our goal when we teach these courses is we want them to be completely scanner agnostic, meaning, what we teach in the Spirit curriculum with scanners, any scanner will work, right? So if you have an iTero or if you have a 3Shape or if you have a prime scan, we don't really get into in the Spirit side of things, at least we don't really get into like you need to use something super specific. So in that sense that yes, we've tried different scanners, I think that there's so many scanners that we can't possibly, try them all. So we kind of separate them into what do we feel like are the premium options out there. So I think most of our focus has been on prime scan and 3Shape. But we also are looking at that new aoral elite scanner, just specifically because that's the one, if you haven't heard of it, that has the photogrammetry built into the scanner. So you can actually scan those scan bodies for all NX, and you can think about using a scanner and get away from the bigger photogrammetry units. So one of our faculty is looking at that scanner. But for me personally, the scanners that I've used in my office are 3Shape and the prime scans. So I still kind of focus on those, but I have tried other ones. We do have an iTero sitting around as well. But I need to know a lot about these for the education so I can build a curriculum that allows all of our attendees, because they have different scanners, to be successful. But in my clinic, when I'm doing dentistry, I work with the scanners that work best for the workflow that I do.
Not to shift from clinical too much, but I was texting with Mina yesterday, and I was like, we got Mike on tomorrow. Anything I should give him grief about? He goes, well, ask him if his damn golf game's gotten any better. Plays 4 times a week.
I had the best summer of golf I've had like in probably 5 years. And the reason is because I've been home more. So I've played more golf. I don't even want to tell you how much golf I play because it's almost embarrassing. But yes, my golf game has been pretty solid this year. I started getting back into competition. I played like the senior amateur and all this different stuff. And so, yeah, so I'm doing good.
So, the U.S. Senior Am in 2025 is at a club that I'm a member of, Biltmore Forest.
Oh,
You going to play? You going to try to play?
we will see. I'll have to take a look at that. The funny thing about this is I turned 50 this year, and people think, okay, seniors, but
I guess you got to be
it means
55 for
nothing in
that.
golf. It means nothing in golf, right?
Yeah.
So like the guys that I played with my whole life growing up, what I played with in college, everybody's 50 now. And, they're just as good as some of these college kids. Like we can't hit the ball quite as far anymore, but but there's lots of under par rounds being shot, let's just say that.
Nice.
So are you back to, I mean, you played at Purdue, right?
I did, yep.
So are you back to the 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3?
My handicap index right now is exactly 0.0.
Oh, wow.
Yep. It was I think I've been as low as like a +1 or something like that this year, but I would prefer it to be like a 3, honestly.
Sure.
So you don't lose as much money on the golf course?
That's 100% right. Yes, it's very hard. It's very hard to compete when you're giving everybody shots. So yeah, but no, we have fun. Mina missed our golf trip this year. Usually we take one every single year, and he couldn't go this year, which was a shame because we have so much fun.
Where'd y'all go this year?
We went down to the Ozarks actually,
Oh,
in southern Missouri. It was very surprising how good it was. They
what
have
is it
Was that
called?
that one with Tiger's Course? Was it Big?
yeah, the Tiger
Cedar
Course
Lodge?
it's called Paynes Valley.
Yeah, Paynes Valley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paynes Valley, and that was good. It's more of a resort type course. It's not, I mean, it's great. But they have one called Ozark National,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which was fantastic. And so, I recommended it. We had a really good time. A little
And that's
hard
all.
to get there, but
Yeah.
it's great.
That's all encompassed by Big Cedar Lodge, right? Is it what
I
it's
It
think
is.
called?
it's all
It's
part of
right in
that.
Big Cedar
Yeah.
Lodge.
Yeah.
Have you
So-
been there before?
We haven't. We've been talking about trying to
Yeah.
get down there, trying to figure out the right time of year to go where mosquitoes won't carry you away,
Yeah.
or it's too cold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
January is when the mosquitoes are gone.
yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
cold.
yeah.
That's right. That's right.
It was nice. I really liked it. I recommend it.
When did you guys go?
August.
Okay.
Okay.
And the mosquitoes
little
didn't carry you
steamy.
away?
Little steamy.
What's that?
Mosquitoes didn't carry you away in August?
No, I didn't really have any issues with mosquitoes, but
Really?
it's when you're golfing as much as we do, we're not like spending a lot of time outside later at night.
Sure.
You golf all day, you eat dinner, and you go to bed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
And
other
you do it
question I
again the
have
next day.
Yeah, other question I have for you. Obviously, there's a lot of shoe game going on these days. I'm wearing some Jordans. Looks like my brother's wearing some Jordans today. What are the shoes in the back left corner that you have in that picture?
The back left.
Right there.
Yeah. Looks like a pair of Air Force Ones or something.
Oh, that is like that is a picture my daughter made. She drew
Oh, wow.
this. So yeah, she entered this into an art project. So this is just a drawing of some Jordans that my 12-year-old daughter did.
Awesome.
So yeah, so it was when she was in 6th grade, she did this.
That's pretty cool.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I can't afford to have nice shoes because I've had 3 kids and they all want nice shoes. So all my shoe money goes to them.
It's amazing what shoe game will cost you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they gross like and unfortunately I have a basketball player, like a high school basketball player, and I had to get to the point where you need to like put some of your money into these. You need to earn some money because these shoes are like $500.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
crazy.
absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a soccer player and that stuff is killing me right now.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you for spending some time with us today. It's been a pleasure to know you, call you a friend for over 15 years. Kind of for our audience, what would you say is a takeaway message for them from today?
Well, I think that, if we're specifically talking about digital, I think my take-home message is you have to slow down a little bit. All these systems are going to work. I think concentrate on the fundamentals, like learn how to do the dentistry. The dentistry, in my opinion, is actually getting easier when you start looking at some of the materials. We didn't really talk much about materials, but some of the zirconia in the posterior is making life easier. I don't think I've ever been as happy as I am now as a dentist, just making zirconia that's fitting fantastic. It's looking good, and I can cement it. The cementing, I mean, I'm just in love with it. But slow down a little bit would be one. Learn how to prepare a tooth properly. And the second message I would have is don't don't be afraid of spending a little bit extra as an investment to get the right workflow. Because for some people, it's not going to be as simple as I can put together the cheapest option and make it work. A cohesive workflow with digital, in my opinion, is worth a lot. So I've never been afraid of spending a little bit extra money to make my office run more efficiently. And just a quick example of that would be, if I was getting slowed down by multiple dentists in one milling unit, the solution is never to buy more scanners, it's always to buy more milling units. If you're getting slowed down by too many people doing zirconia in your office, then maybe you need another sintering furnace. So it's always been, I want my office to run as smoothly and as efficiently as I possibly can, but I also want it to be super cohesive and have everything talk to each other, work to each other. And sometimes solutions like that cost a little bit more money. So don't be afraid of doing that if that works for you. Now, there's other offices that have made some of these systems they put together work fantastic, but for me, I need something simple and easy. And so I've always been, my advice would be don't be afraid if it's right for you to invest a little bit more in better systems that will create increased efficiency.
Well, thank you again. And thank you all for joining the Simplified Dentistry podcast. Be sure to join our community by registering to receive future episodes at simplifiedds.com. And please join our Facebook community, Simplified Dentistry. Dentistry is a hard profession. We hope that our community can help make it a little more simple. Thank you again, Mike. We appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.